the first step is to understand who you're trying to sell to. Why do people buy barefoot shoes in this case? And I normally sit down for a couple of minutes and think, well, what problem do barefoot shoes solve? Why would I buy barefoot shoes? Why would my parents buy barefoot shoes? Why would my grandparents buy barefoot shoes? And then when I'm stuck or I've kind of put all those notes onto a document, I go ask ChatGPT. It's a powerful tool. It's not perfect, but it really helps speed things up. I always do things manually first and then move to AI. By doing this, AI isn't guiding my creativity, and I'm not limiting myself based on what I see that ChatGPT outputs. And this is you're gonna see this in all of these steps moving forward. It's a pretty straightforward process. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. The second step is creating hooks or headlines. Hooks are there to segment the user that you want to find. If I want to reach men over 50, I need to make sure that I'm reaching or I'm appealing to men over 50 in my ad. That's why I'm saying it's a hook. It brings in the right type of audience. Creating hooks. Honestly, again, I spend like 5 or 10 minutes creating hooks and headlines manually. You sit down on a Word doc or on a piece of paper, or I don't know, sit in your spa if you have one, and brainstorm, think about, okay, how do I want to create or attract people into my funnel? Then, again, you go ask ChatGPT to write you headlines. In this case, I had a prompt that said, write 10 headlines for up to 60 characters. Remember, if you have headlines that are above 60 characters, they're oftentimes cut off in different placements. And then, why people buy barefoot shoes with the intent of using them on Taboola. It's important to define what you're doing with them, because otherwise you're just going to get a bunch of funky headlines, some of which may have nothing to do with what you're trying to achieve on native ads. Then you readjust your prompt. I'm going to do this a few times. In this case, I'm telling ChatGPT to do it again, but don't mention the product. I don't want to sell in my ad headline. I want to segment. So I'm going to remove the product from the ad headline. Then I'm going to say, hey, listen, these headlines are great. I hear you, ChatGPT. Make them clickier. ChatGPT understands what I mean by I want a higher click-through rate, and it'll give me headlines that use words or certain phrases that attract people's attention and draw them in. You can add numbers and statistics, which is a very powerful tool in pretty much any segment on native ads and on Taboola. Numbers attract people. If you see 9,000 pop up in a headline somewhere, regardless of what it's selling, you're probably going to be intrigued what they're talking about and why 9,000% is there as a number, and you're going to read the headline. That's what you want as an advertiser, and that's what numbers can do. There's an infinite amount of these, and I'm not going to do all of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but essentially, each product and each headline should be unique. You don't want to be copying people out there. You don't want to be taking people's headlines in in the majority of cases. In some instances it actually helps, but most of the time you want to be very unique in what you do. Why? If you have 2 ads with the same headline on the Taboola feed, the ad that came first and that has the most history is going to be above the ad that came second, which means that you as an advertiser who are copying headlines from others are always going to have a lower ad CTR, a lower VCPM, and a worse quality of a click, because you're not the first headline, you're not the first user, you're not the first ad that users see when they're looking through the Taboola feed for a certain product. Then you create your headlines. You take 6 of these. That's my methodology. You can also take 12, but the idea is that you want to keep it relatively simple. This whole process shouldn't take more than an hour. And you take 6 headlines and you think, okay, well, I like these 6 headlines. Then you take 2 more that you don't like. That you're like, well, I don't get this headline. I'm not convinced by it. Why? We are not the people we are trying to sell to in the vast majority of cases. And it's very important as marketers to understand that. Your goal isn't to sell to Caucasian men in their 30s. Most of the time, for most of the products that you're looking for. And it's important to realize that when creating ad headlines. So just what might appeal to you may not be what is the best headline. And I've actually found a pretty, like 25% of the time, I'm wrong in my selection of headlines, and then the headlines that I'm not sure about end up being the winner.